Think like a scientist. Welcome to Fresh Thinking University, where we curate the best content and wisdom from the wisest people who have ever lived. We create and curate knowledge which inspires you to become the very best person you were born to be, to accomplish, and to make a difference in the world. The masterclass, Think Like a Scientist, aims to inspire and equip you with skills to use the secrets that scientists have to improve the quality of your life. Leaders in society have derailed their chances of making a difference because they did not understand how to think like a scientist. From the beginning of human history, people have asked questions about natural phenomena. Science is a process of answering these questions through research, investigation. It is not a rigid set of procedures, but rather a broad approach to investigation that begins with questions like why, what is going on, how is this explained? This approach leads an investigator to reason evidence-based answers to those questions. Why must we think like scientists? What will benefit you and me and others when we think like a scientist? Some of the most important questions scientists ask are the following. What is the universe made of? What makes us human? How do we get more energy from the sun? Can we live forever? How do we solve the population problem? Will we ever cure cancer? Are there other universes? Scientists are essential for the world because they help us understand how the world works in particular ways. For example, human beings have spent a lot of time figuring out how to stay alive and to be happy. Science has been a powerful tool for staying alive, though it doesn't always make us happy. Scientists' work leads to solution to many of the most critical problems we face and offers an understanding of a reality that enriches and expands our lives. Scientists deliver breakthrough solutions and preventative measures for many of society's troubles. Science leads in the fight to prevent and cure disease, prevent global hunger, clean up the environment, and help people live longer. Leaders in any field must think and act like scientists to direct their thought, energy, and action. That requires doing 5 things. In summary, here they are. Being a knowledgeable skeptic and relentlessly questioning assumptions. Investigating anomalies, things that are unexpected or don't look right. Devising testable hypotheses that can be quantifiably confirmed or disapproved. Running experiments that produce hard evidence. Probing cause and effect. Leaders make decisions about products, customers, resource allocation, and employee pay every day, basing them on assumptions that have never been critically examined, much less challenged. But when skeptics show that ideas underlying practices are wrong, confounding, or even costly, leaders grasp the importance of systematically testing assumptions. Why don't leaders make challenging assumptions a standard operating procedure if challenging assumptions are so valuable. After decades of studying and practicing innovation and decision making, there is evidence that the fundamental reason is that most leaders don't think or act like scientists. This is a huge lost opportunity. Research from Harvard Business School published in the Harvard Business Review suggests that rigorous experiments can help leaders discover whether a new product, service, or business program will succeed. But the evidence is that many leaders are still reluctant to fund experiments. Yet, despite decades of admonitions about the dangers of gut instinct, leaders often continue to over rely on intuition and personal experience in decision making, even when the evidence contradicts them. Acting like a scientist is difficult for leaders because it can challenge their legitimacy. Undoubtedly, that is because someone's position in the corporate hierarchy is often assumed to result from experience and a track record of successful moves and ideas. Senior executives live in a feedback loop of positive reinforcement that makes them unlikely to question the foundations of their decisions. The scientific method, in contrast, requires intellectual humility in the face of complex problems and relies on an objective evidence-based process rather than predominantly personal insight to frame and address decisions. When we think scientifically, we recognize that human beings make cognitive and judgmental errors and can drift into complacency built on flawed assumptions. When we act scientifically, we relentlessly probe our assumptions and change them if evidence shows that they are wrong. Taking a scientific approach to decisions is critical for today's organizations, particularly in the light of the enormous upheavals the COVID-19 pandemic has wrought. Let us go through the 5 elements of the scientific methods that we find particularly useful in management practice. Number 1, the first element of the scientific method is be a knowledgeable skeptic. Why must scientists be skeptics? Skepticism suspends judgment, the opposite of jumping to conclusions. When evaluating an explanation or claim, it allows scientists to consider all possibilities and systematically question all information in the investigation. Why is maintaining a skeptical outlook so important? Well, skepticism helps scientists to remain objective when performing scientific inquiry and research. It forces them to examine claims, their own and those of others, to be confident that there is sufficient evidence to back them up. However, skeptics do not doubt every claim, only those backed by insufficient evidence or by data that have been improperly collected, are not relevant, or cannot support the rationale being made. When leaders adopt this mindset, their biases and errors won't get in the way of finding the truth. Instead, they will employ reason, demand evidence, and be open to new ideas. In scientific practice, this means seeking independent confirmation of facts, placing more value on expertise than on authority, and examining competing hypotheses. For example, why do we believe this? What is the evidence that this is true? History is full of examples where such skepticism helped overturn commonly held ideas and led to significant scientific advances. When leaders are knowledgeable, skeptics, it can transform how an organization transforms and operates. The second element of the scientific method is to investigate anomalies. In science, the study of anomalies has been instrumental in identifying questionable assumptions. Anomalies are unexpected things that don't look right or seem strange. They are noticeable because they don't cohere or fit with the sought after outcomes. Instead, leaders should watch for and explore them because they can lead to new business insights. A famous anomaly, for example, led to the scientist Louis Pasteur to make a significant discovery while studying the causes of chicken cholera. In 1879, when Louis Pasteur returned from summer vacation, he realized that his cultures of chicken cholera had lost their virulence. Louis Pasteur also noticed that when his assistant injected the spoiled cultures in hens, they developed only mild symptoms and fully recovered. They remained healthy when the same birds were injected with new virulent bacteria. Louis Pasteur's discovery that weakened or dead microorganisms that produce mild disease can prevent that same disease in its lethal form led to one of the most significant breakthroughs in fighting infectious diseases. Leaders who look for and act on anomalies can likewise unearth insight that lead to significant opportunities. History is full of examples where skepticism helped overturn commonly held ideas and led to significant scientific advances. The third element of the scientific method is articulate testable hypothesis. A testable hypothesis is not a simple statement. Instead, it is an intricate statement that needs to offer a clear introduction to a scientific experiment, its intentions, and possible outcomes. Hypotheses are potential explanations that can account for our observations of the external world. They usually describe cause and effect, relationships between a proposed mechanism or process, the cause, and our observations, the effect. Observations are data, what we see or measure in the real world. To be effectively challenged, assumptions must be framed as hypotheses that can be quantifiably confirmed or disproved. For example, when measuring what you are speaking about, you know something and express it in numbers. But when you cannot measure it, your knowledge is meager and unsatisfactory. When you cannot express it in numbers, an experiment that produces evidence contradicting a hypothesis allows us to recognize errors in our thinking and judgment, modify the hypothesis, and then retest it. This iterative process of testing and refining ultimately leads to more robust hypotheses. For centuries, the assumption was that the universe comprised matter called ether, which light traveled through. The ether hypothesis arose because scientists believed light waves required a medium to propagate in empty space. Then, in 1887, the physicists Robert Michelson and Edward Morley proved this thesis was correct. They conducted an experiment that measured the speed of light in perpendicular direction. Any difference in speed will be evidence of ether's existence, but no such difference was found, undercutting the hypothesis and accelerating the search for new scientific theory of space and time, special relativity. Instead, the experiment opened the door to another way of thinking about how the universe works. Businesses can apply a similar approach. Virtually all significant companies like Amazon, Google, universities, and banks use the mind tools of the scientists to improve customers' experiences, to improve service. In business, ideas for hypotheses can come from multiple sources. A good starting point is customer insights derived from qualitative research. Hypotheses can also be inspired by anomalies, which can be found in everything from overhead conversations to successful practices that deviate from the norm at other companies. The fourth element of scientific method is to produce hard evidence. What does that mean? The term corroborative evidence is essentially refers to any type of evidence that tends to support the meaning, validity, or truthfulness of another piece of evidence already presented. The evidence is used to back up or refute arguments and helps us make decisions at work. Using evidence allows us to work out what is effective and what is not. Explaining the key to science in a lecture at Cornell University in 1964, the theoretical physicist Richard Feynman declared, and I quote, "It doesn't make any difference how beautiful your gas is. It doesn't make any difference how smart you are, who made the gas, or what his or her name is. If it disagrees with the evidence in an experiment, it is wrong. That is all there is to it." Close quote. Leaders should take that advice to heart, and endeavors underlining assumptions shouldn't be based solely on the feelings, experiences, guesses, or status of those holding them. Insights should also stem from conclusive evidence. If such proof doesn't already exist, disciplined experimentation or experiments can provide it. This tenet should be a pillar of any institution's culture. The fifth element of the scientific method is a probe of cause and effect. Most social scientific studies attempt to provide some kind of causal explanation. Causality refers to the idea that one event, behavior, or belief will result in the occurrence of another subsequent event, behavior, or belief. In other words, it is about to cause and effect. It seems simple, but you may be surprised to learn there is more than one way to explain how one thing causes another. How can that be? How could there be many ways to understand causality? How do we establish a cause-effect causal relationship? The basic principle of causality determines whether the results and trends seen in an experiment are actually caused by the manipulation or whether some other factor may underlie the process. The first step in establishing causality is demonstrating association. Simply put, is there a relationship between the independent and dependent variables? If both variables are numeric, this can be established by looking at their correlation to determine if they appear to converge. Do as the Greeks do. The method of asking practical probing questions can be traced back to the Greek philosopher Socrates. Socrates believed that Disciplined questioning encourages students to dissect complex ideas, uncover the truth, and challenge assumptions, among other things. He called this approach aptly Socratic questioning. According to Harvard Business Review, asking probing questions should be met with the spirit of accelerating progress, illuminating unconscious assumptions, and solving problems. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Very important. When you peel the onion, you not only advance the work at hand, but help your team reach a greater understanding. Relying on assumptions about cause and effect is dangerous for leaders and managers. When making decisions, we humans often see connections between unrelated actions and outcomes, confusing correlation with causation, and respond to irrelevant noise factors. We also tend to heavily accept good evidence that confirms our casual assumptions but challenge and investigate bad, so-called bad evidence against them. Scientists probe causality in different ways. Conventional experiments change one or more variables, the presumed cause, and observe things in the outcome, the effect, while holding all other variables constant. When they can't keep all other variables constant, they rely on randomization, which prevents systemic bias introduced consciously or unconsciously from affecting the experiment. Randomization evenly spreads any remaining potential outcome causes because between test and control groups. Before making or reaching a decision, ask yourself the following question: is this really true? Do we really believe in that? In natural experiments, the variables are outside the investigator's control or scientists' control, but they can still reveal insights about causality. When conventional experiments aren't feasible because the interplay between the variables can be observed simultaneously are often helpful. Asking what if questions and thinking about counterfactuals is a powerful way to examine scenarios under different assumptions and arrive at insights about cause and effect. The global pandemic has introduced us to a world full of peril, much more significant uncertainty. Assumptions about how we work and live have been turned on their heads. Supply chains no longer seem to function, and answers to the most pressing business problems appear elusive. So, what happens to organizational culture when people no longer work in offices? Can a manufacturer run a factory with no people? Can we bring down skyrocketing insurance costs by motivating employees to take action to improve their health? But a time of great uncertainty is also an opportunity to rethink what leaders have assumed to be true. It will be a mistake to rely only on experience, intuition, and judgment to guide us through this tumultuous period and era. Men and women who practice the scientific methods have given us excellent medical remedies, a vastly safer and more plentiful food supply, and new energy and transportation and communication. It is highly effective way to help businesses increase the likelihood of success, reduce errors in judgment, and find sources of innovation and growth. It should play a central role in your decision-making processes. Most scientific social scientific studies attempt to provide some kind of causal explanation. Causality refers to the idea that one event, behavior, or belief will result in the occurrence of another subsequent event, behavior, or belief. In other words, it is about to cause and effect. It seems simple, but you may be surprised to learn there is more than one way to explain how one thing causes another. How can that be? How could there be many ways to understand causality? Thinking like a scientist is one of the best skills you can ever have in your life. The masterclass empowered you with the skills which will enable you to use the secrets which scientists have to improve the quality of your thinking and your professional life as well. In summary, here are the 5 skills for thinking like a scientist. Become a knowledgeable skeptic and relentlessly question assumptions. Be alert and investigate anomalies, things that are unexpected or don't look right. Consciously devise testable hypotheses that can be quantifiably confirmed or disproved. Run experiments that produce hard evidence, probing cause and effect. Collaborative competitiveness. The best scientists readily compete and collaborate with one another. For an example, someone in a different field or organization could have the key to unlocking the problem they are working on. When the problems get tough, scientists want to build the best team, even if the partner is a fierce competitor. Scientists are essential for the world because they help people understand how the world works in particular ways. At the end of the day, we all should know how to think under a scientific lens. The effects can improve both you as an individual and our collective well-being. As a leader aspiring to think like a scientist, what are the 3 lessons you learn from this masterclass? How can you apply the lessons to improve the quality of your life? What are the 3 specific actions you plan to take in the next 24 hours? I'm glad we journeyed together during this masterclass. We appreciate you coming over, and we promise that only the best content ever will be put on this platform. To continue your journey with Fresh Thinking University Masterclasses, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube platform. Let us know what inspires you and how best we can serve you on this platform. Hit the subscribe button and be the first person to get new content from this platform. We pause here for now. Signing off, Dr. Masasekani Mishak Kosa, the Thinking Futurist. Thank you.